Hello, welcome to the Overshare Pamphlet. My name is Rob, and I'm the host of this one-man show coming to you every Monday, 6 a.m. UK time. And today, we are discussing something quite interesting. I've been thinking about this topic for quite a bit, and it all started up like again in my brain. It's been something that has been on my mind for a long time, I think, but I just like couldn't really put my finger on all the different moving parts of this until a very recent tweet that I saw, of course, on X, and I guess it sort of like reminded me also of another article that I read on The Guardian, like months and months ago. It's just like a general, basically, situation that has been facing, I assume, all of us when it comes to entertainment and what we consume online, and how most of the things we see on streaming shows or like at the cinema as well is it feels very how to say, lackluster, mediocre, mid, as people would say these days, just very very uninspired, I would say. And most of all, I think, and a very recent also a very recent movie did this as well. It seems that Hollywood is just like, only pushing out now. Well, it's mostly pushing out now like sequels of very old IP, trying to revive a lot of old intellectual property and very old franchises. And the recent testament of this is Zootopia 2, which, to be fair, I would also argue that it's not, at the same time, the most poignant example of this, because it's just like a second movie in the franchise, so it's not necessarily like a revival, but it did come out after 6 years, I believe, from the first one, or I may be wrong, but it's been, I think, 6 or 5 years since the first one came out, so it seems all to I guess with the general landscape that we have, it all seems to like, calculated and is following, I guess, sort of like a formula that all studios are adopting. It's not simply, Disney or whatever, but all studios are adopting this because this goes hand in hand with the other part I was talking about earlier, which is the rest of the content is quite, and even these sequels, to be fair, seems to be quite lackluster. But the only thing that really seems to move the needle and entertain people, at least in the theaters, seems to be a sequel or a revival, or like a new interpretation of something that has already been seen on the big screen before. Now, don't get me wrong, I will get into some examples that are new property, like completely fresh new property, that has managed to like break through. But I think there is a general trend, a bigger trend here, as to why we cannot see a lot of new IP flourishing, new franchising starting off, new stuff coming out. It's very difficult to see completely new ideas. I mean, this is still important. Like, what I think what's really most important overall is that it's very difficult now to just come up with new ideas in general, because almost everything has already been done before in culture. In a culture, I guess you can. However, I think, well, I mean, the beauty of storytelling in general and of entertainment is to, well, I think it's just a rule also of music and storytelling and anything in general of entertainment, is to talk about very well-known emotions that have already been portrayed before, but in a more interesting and original way. Like, you can, of course, pull inspiration from different sources and other movies and other forms of media, of course, but what really, I think, is artistic and breaks through is something that manages to tell something that's already been told before, but in a new, novel way. So I think it is still possible to still be inspired by old stuff and old movies, and paying homage to older franchises, while also bringing in something new and being its own thing. And we've had examples of this, and I will get into them, as I said. But yeah, so as I said, like, overall, this is something that's been happening in the recent years, and I've sort of always thought about this, and I've always been very, I think I'm a rare case of this, but very reluctant to attach myself to a single streaming device or like platform in general. I'm one of those people who doesn't really like having to like commit to one single streaming service because frankly the majority of the stuff that is proposed to us even on streaming shows is utter shit. It's like practically garbage. Like, I'm not kidding. Netflix is a prime example of this, in my opinion. I mean, people may disagree with me, but I thoroughly, thoroughly despise Netflix because most of the things coming out on that platform are devoid of any artistic merit or any, any sort of interesting and good quality content in that sense. So, I mean, the only shows that I always, and the only, I guess, platform that really provides a lot of interesting stuff is HBO, but HBO works in a different way. Like, HBO has been renowned to be, like, it's become famous for providing us with more adult content and more artistic content that pushes the needle a bit more. So you have certain expectations when you when you consume shows from HBO, but all other studios and like all the streaming platforms under those studios all could and have done it before. They have produced stuff that is maybe not as cutting edge or whatever, but still incredibly good quality content. And now is just there just seems to be like a sea of garbage, and it's very hard to like navigate through all these things and find something that's really really interesting and captures your attention. Like I could literally name very few shows in recent history that have also become full on their own thing. They're completely original ideas, and they have like gotten they become sort of like their own little world and have their own fandom and everything. Like to me, one of the best examples of this is The White Lotus. That is something that is completely outstanding in my opinion, and of course it's HBO, but it's something that started off as a pandemic show produced with a very low budget in one single location, few people involved, and it just blossomed, and it was a completely original idea, still taking tropes from murder mysteries and all that stuff, but just completely its own thing, and just blossomed into this like incredible new. I would actually even call it a franchise because we're on season 3 already, and well, we've done season 3 and we're on to season 4 now. So it's just incredible. But the main problem is it is increasingly difficult to find shows like this because one, there's so much content out there, it's difficult to actually navigate through all that and find something that you like. But also, I think the system, the way it works, is that it doesn't really award anymore. It doesn't really award novelty. Like, it's just based on nostalgia a lot and regurgitating old IP, renovating old IP and reproducing the same idea over and over again. Because it is practically the most lucrative thing. But I always asked myself, like, but why is that? Why are we not pushing still, like, for new content to be pushed out on these platforms? And, I mean, I always thought that theaters are the place where you have to go, I think, to like still try and see some new stuff, because at the end of the day, theaters are the only places that at the moment that are independent in a way, and they're all based on viewership, and it's quite literally the only place you can see with clarity, like in terms of the outcomes of something, like the audiences for something. That's the only place. That's the only place where you can see actual numbers and actual, non-manipulated scores, I guess. But yeah, so this article really opened a lot of conversations for me and really sort of clarified a lot of points for me. I really, really enjoyed it. It was something that really sparked a lot of interest in me and really pushed me to this episode most of all. But again, as I said, the latest example of this whole thing is Utopia, which has managed to basically earn in its opening weekend, $500 million, which is insane. It's probably like, well, it is definitely the biggest opening of the year, period. But it's also, I think, the fourth highest opening ever for a movie, ever. So massive, massive, movie. I think definitely something to like go and see and for yourself and see if you like it. But has very decent audience scores, as open in China, which is partially why it's so big. Like, it's the most watched movie in China in its first day. Like, it made $100 million in China in one day. Like, in its opening day, it made $100 million. It's insane. Alone, that is just numbers that some other movies wish they could have. But yeah. So this tweet that I particularly referred to is a tweet from Joseph Kahn, and it's he tweeted it literally like on the 29th of November. So it was literally yesterday, like yesterday from when I'm recording. I'm recording on a Sunday, but the 29th. So this article basically sort of tries to explain to you why the content that we consume today seems very mid and very uninspired. It goes back to actually also, and it is like basically he tries to start the point by saying that this is not the first time we've had this problem, right? He says that in Hollywood's golden age, the major studios basically in 1948 before 1948 basically, all major studios used to own their own theaters. So it was a very aggressive strategy, very anti-capitalistic actually strategy that was stopped by the Supreme Court with its United States versus Paramount Pictures decree in 1948, as I said. The Paramount decrees basically were made to stop this anti-capitalist strategies that were put in place by the studios. By owning basically a theater, you would push your own content, of course. It wouldn't be, it was all privatized. So if you went to, like, I don't know, the Paramount Pictures studios, you would mostly see Paramount Pictures movies, and so stuff that was produced from a studio would have a guaranteed spot at the movies. Now, after that decree, of course, the theaters were still private, but they were not, privatized in the sense of they were not owned by the studios that produced the movies themselves. Like, they were privatized by other companies that don't have a stake in making the movies themselves. They're distributors. Like, the new middlemans were created basically. And so you would have, chains of different movie theaters that would, again, not owned by any specific studio. And that meant that if, like, any studio basically had a fair shot at putting that movie in a theater, but that also meant that the theater owner could basically get a movie out of their weekly, schedule, because if they didn't meet certain standards of viewerships or people were not interested in it. So if actual people, like, power went basically in the consumers' pockets, right? So if people were interested in buying a ticket for a certain type of movie, they would show up and they would generate some sort of, like, interest in that sense. Then the theater owner would keep that movie for a longer time in specific, maybe in bigger theaters, basically. That's just the way it went. And no matter what studio, if you're the most powerful studio or not, if your movie was not appreciated by the general public, or people would not buy your tickets, your movie was a flop, and you would get kicked out of the theater for that. Like, then your movie would be just sent back. So that was probably the most democratic moment we ever had, and created the golden age of Hollywood, where we had so many of the new IPs building up, because people actually chose quality over some content that was basically forced on their throats. Now, this again was happening still until, and even when it came to the tweet also said that even when it came to, like, digital content like DVDs and all this stuff, the studios did not own Target, for example, or like all these shops where you could buy DVDs. Like, it would still be in other privately owned supermarkets or whatever, like, DVD shops or all that stuff. And if people wanted to buy them, they could. Like, there was plenty of choice, basically, and people could just use their money to have their voices heard, basically, in that sense. There was no Like you would find also in stores the most watched shows independently of what studio was making them. You know what I mean? Now, if you after streaming arrived, basically, that's when things properly started to change, and that's because vertical integration started becoming a major thing. Like that's like, but it was reintroduced through streaming, and it was on steroids now. The tweet says, the Joseph account says, it's like vertical integration on steroids because now on the streaming platform that is owned by the studio, you only have the content from that studio, first of all, and second of all, they have no they have no accountability. They don't publish numbers of viewerships on their platforms, and anything that is in the top most viewed, I guess what they say, on shows or movies on the platform is just there's no accountability behind it if it's actually true or not. Like it could be simply just shows or movies that were created by the student. They want to push them to just have them at the top of the page whenever you open a streaming platform. So literally, this is like one of the most anti-capitalistic things that I've ever happened in the entertainment industry, because now with streaming platforms owned by studios specifically, people are just forced to watch what the studios want us to watch. There's no chance for smaller producers or smaller indie companies to put their contents out and have genuine moments happen. You have to be good at pitching certain ideas to these studios. For example, if you want to have it published on their streaming platforms, you would have to sign very non-competitive contracts with these companies that wouldn't really have any benefits for you. And because the streaming platform doesn't have a direct link, like in essence, to who is the main source of the success of a certain movie. Like whenever you pay a subscription, we don't know exactly what happens to it. Like it just goes for a general pool from the studio. So I don't think there's a chance that a producer gets straight up all the benefits from a movie or a show actually performing well on a streaming platform. So it's just a mess. And so basically what happens now is that because these platforms are very much controlled by the studios themselves, all that is just seen on the screen is just stuff that they want us to watch. Now, also the streaming platform situation is part of a bigger problem, I think, as well, that happened through COVID. And that's something that really is important, and that's what really reminded me of this article from The Guardian. Basically, this is it's like, I think it was 4 months old or something, but it was written roughly when the Jurassic World movie came out this summer. And basically the whole point of the article is to argue that Hollywood is trapped in this cycle of nostalgia and risk avoidance because streaming has cancelled the need to go to a movie theater. The only thing that really makes a buzz on, like, in terms of inviting you to go and watch something new at a theater is if it's something that has some form of nostalgia attached to it. Like, it's a reboot, or like it's a sequel of something that you've heard about when you are actually going to the theaters in the first place ages ago. So new content at the theaters, which again is the most democratic place at the moment in the market to push your content in, it's very hard for independent producers to actually have a movie gain word of mouth, because people are not interested in going to the movies anymore because of streaming again. That's one. Two, I think, and it goes hand in hand with the streaming, is the COVID era. It closed so many theaters and accelerated, I guess, the overtake of the streaming platforms, and plus the strikes that happened a couple of years ago really also delayed a lot of productions. And so basically everything is now on streaming that is owned by these companies. So it's very hard again overall to see content flourish by itself. Unless you have, of course, the right connections or whatever, your name is already big, you cannot really push original IP anymore, because one, the studios are not incentivized to do that, two small producers who would pitch new ideas are not able to access any more democratic distribution means in that sense. So it's just a cycle that is going to keep on repeating itself unless, these streaming platforms are revised. There's some form of, commitment from, maybe the US, or the government itself, or something to change how, the entertainment is is consuming in general. Like, I really think it's very vital for theaters to still be alive and to still continue to thrive, because those are the places where you can literally only find small indie stuff that really isn't anywhere, and that can only is only becoming rarer and rarer because it's just very difficult to just get a theatrical release. But yeah, so in the article of the Guardian, basically, it also the article basically points to the same thing, saying that, for example, the Gareth Edwards Jurassic World movie, the Jurassic World Rebirth, whatever that was called, he intentionally designed that movie to have a 1990s quality to it, nostalgia stuff, and it's just one of the many movies basically from the summer that had a lot of remakes, basically. Like, there's so many, or like reiteration of the same content. So we have I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Naked Gun, Superman, Fantastic Four. All these things are reboots or reinterpretation of certain stuff. So yeah, I mean, studios basically are so attached to like non-original IP. Like, it's just stuff that gets regurgitated because high-profile flops like, I don't know, Pixar, Elio, or The Black Bag by Soderbergh, or Bong Joon-ho, Mickey 17, for example. I thought that was an incredible movie, very interesting, or at least something new and fresh. But people are not interested in seeing these things because there's no incentive to go and see something completely new anymore. So, damn, people are mad in the streets. Get them. But I said, not everything is lost in a way. There's definitely there have been some couple of instances here where you've had proper original content coming out that really have reinforced, that there is still the chance to have these type of moments. Like, I would say, for example, the F1 movie was completely, new stuff. I don't think I've ever seen an F1 movie ever. And yes, it stems from the actual Formula One, but it's just a completely different story in itself. Or Sinners, for example. I think Sinners is a great example of this. Yes, it is Ryan Coogler. Yes, he already has a name for himself, but he did make a movie that is quite original. I mean, it pulls from different things. There's also a case to be had in terms of how it pulls from certain aesthetics of certain video games as well. There's a lot of that, but it was a complete new idea and something that really thrived at the theater. And that I would argue mostly happened because he has a very strong fan base behind him, and these people went to watch the movie, and then word of mouth helped the movie grow. But again, new directors who have no experience of the sorts, or like who have no fan base whatsoever, have an increasingly harder time to have that moment. So yeah, I mean, most of the theatrical releases that we usually used to have, where there were mid-budget movies and human drama movies and all that stuff, they're no longer really present at the theater. We have, to be the most recent examples are probably Materialists or maybe Addington, I think. There's very few cases of this, but most of these things have migrated now also to streaming. Like I said, White Lotus, Adolescence, Baby Reindeer as well. All these places, like all these shows, are technically could have worked as movies, but there's no incentive to put them out in on a theater because it's too scary for studios to try and put something more risky and new on actual theaters, because again, they don't have the same monopoly that they have on their streaming platforms. So I guess the article in general concludes with saying that Hollywood resembles now more than ever like a packaged goods industry more than anything else. It's not anymore about like the artistry of the movie making experience in that sense, but more it's just like it's definitely like, you know, a movie, a story, but that has to be packaged together with several other elements like merchandising, and it has to be an event or no one will pay attention to it, and there needs to be an entire ecosystem built around it to have a successful, I guess, theatrical run. And you can see this with like, I don't know, Lilo and Stitch or Barbie or Wicked as well. Wicked is, I would say, at least theatrically, something a bit more original, but it's not really necessarily original at the same time, because the Wizard of Oz, we've had that, the theatrical, you know, the musical is also quite famous, but all these things wouldn't have thrived if there wasn't another machine also behind, which is, you know, the merch, the marketing and all that stuff, like the massive budget spent on these type of movies. So it seems again, and this latest movie, Zootopia 2, seems to also reinforce that the future for now for movies seems to be, you know, sequels and branded content in that sense. But as I said again, I think it is possible to have these moments, and I think people need to really take a stance. If you really, as a consumer, again, bring it back to your wallet. You know, don't fall for these things. Just like don't rely so much on streaming. Go out there, experience also a theatrical release of something so unique. I think from watching something at home, like having to watch a movie with like several hundreds of different people around you, see all their reactions, and have a massive screen and incredible sound and everything else. It is really worth it sometimes. And also, again, if you're really curious, if you're really fed up with as well with like watching crap at home, go to a theater. Go to your local theater. See what indie movies they may have. See the reviews online first, maybe if you're interested. See what's good, what's not. Look at the critics, you know, what they're saying about certain movies. But just don't get spoon-fed so much by the streaming platforms. Try and be more dynamic, I guess, and like more active with your choices. That's my only hope and wish for y'all. My only hope and wish. But again, it seems from the way things are going and from general public, the way it's responding to things, that the future still is, unfortunately, with not unfortunately, some sequels could be good, of course. I'm not saying that. I'm not denying that some sequels are actually pretty good, but it's all too safe, and I don't know how viable it is in the long run to keep on just creating content out of the same stories, the same characters, and the same IPs. We need new blood. We need new stories, new franchises, I think. Anyways, not to get too depressing, but word to the sponsor. Bye. I am so excited to talk about this new sponsor because, yes, first time being sponsored by them, but it's Yarrow Plant-Based Hair Care, and this is the perfect way to upgrade your hair routine. And honestly, your hair is gonna ask you to use Yarrow Plant-Based Hair Care because the products are just incredible. All about organic, vegan ingredients, no sulfates, no alcohol, none of the harsh stuff you'll find in typical hair products. Instead, every bottle is packed with vitamins, minerals, and essential oils as well that actually feed your hair. Imagine a shampoo and a conditioner that don't strip your hair but nourish it. A mousse that gives you volume without chemicals. Products that make your hair look healthier, shinier, softer because they're powered by real botanicals. This is 100% clean beauty at its best. It's luxurious, it's effective, and also it's kind to the planet. And because you're a listener, you get something very special, which is 15% off any product. Yes, 15% off. And it's the highest discount they offer anywhere. It's exclusive, and it's just for you. You just have to use my code, which is Overshare Pamphlet, on their website. I'll leave a link in the description of the episode. You can just go there, but if you just go to the website as well, it's Overshare Pamphlet for 15% off. So treat your hair to the plant-based upgrade it deserves. Go check out Yarrow and use your exclusive discount, 15% off, to experience the difference nature can make. You thought I forgot about this, but we have songs of the week, and this is going to be the first episode of the month for December. So, new playlist, you know what that means. If you want to see where I put these songs, you just have to go on Spotify and search for the Overshare Pamphlet, Songs of the Week dash month and year that we're in. So, this will be in the December 2025 playlist. We're getting so close to the end of the year. Cannot wait to see and discuss my Spotify Wrapped in my future episodes whenever that comes out. But in the meantime, go listen to my playlist. There's new stuff coming your way every week. So for this week, because Thanksgiving has just passed, I can't talk too much about what I put in there, but you can imagine we had a lot of fun with Thanksgiving, a lot of incredible songs and all that stuff. But there was one specific song that I really thoroughly enjoyed for my Thanksgiving, and that was "Inventing" by Matilda Mann. I've listened to her for quite a bit now, and this is one of the best songs she's made. It does have a bit of how to explain, like maybe like "Man I Need" by Olivia Dean situation of it all. Very, very cool song, very feel good. It's all about love and all that stuff and yada yada yada, but it's a very warm song that really brings people together, in my opinion. There's also that beautiful, after the second chorus, the beautiful part, instrumental part that just like takes the song, I think, to a whole different level, and it's something really, really, really good. I think also the lyrics are just incredible, just very sentimental, very, very cute. I enjoy it so freaking much, so good. Just go and have a listen if you want. No one's forcing you. But yeah. Then I want to talk about an Italian song, which has been a while since I talked about an Italian song before. But for those of you who don't know, I am Italian, so first and foremost. So every now and then I do find some good songs from Italy that I really, really enjoy. And this, I'm a bit late to the party, although she is one of my favorite artists at the moment in Italy. And her name is Angelina Mango. And song is specifically that I'm thinking about, I discovered recently from her most recent project is Le Scarpe Slacciate. That is such a good song. Too bad it's so short, but it's just a song that really, really reminds me of summer. I think for me, she is like one of those artists that really gets me, because she's a southerner from southern Italy like me, and she has, a sort of like sensibility when it comes to like she gets the summer vibe of it all. She understands what it means to be someone from a coastal town that really thrives during the summer and attaches so much, so many memories and so many important, values, I guess, to the summer and the summer experiences that we've all had. And we have a family there that, whenever you think of summer, you don't simply think about good times, but just also about your family. Everything is just that, and this is it. This is just like that. She made so many great songs before, but this is one of the recent ones that I'm like, okay, this is the Angela Mango that I fell in love with. And I think here the production is also quite interesting, and she overall, even the project that she's released, the album she's released where this song is in, I think she's really working with very interesting producers, and she's modernizing her like production style quite a lot. She's doing some things that really, I think, don't really work as well in terms of deliveries and everything else, but other stuff really lands. But this is one of them. This is one of the cases where like she combines what she's really good at, which is like expressing a certain feeling and really reminding you of summer and everything else. Like she's just like a very sensible artist when it comes to these things, but also at the same time, modernizing her sound quite a bit. So it's pretty good. I really enjoyed that song. Really, she's on repeat. Then I have an artist that I literally discovered like an hour ago, I think. And his name is John, I don't know, Jean Dawson, I don't know. You will see the song on the playlist. Sorry if I butchered the name. The project that came out last year, I just, started listening to it 1 hour ago, basically. It's called Glimmer of God. The album is incredible. So many great songs, like Darlin', Houston, Die For Me, and my favorite as of now, Black Sugar. That song is just incredible. It's just, I think overall with the album is that he plays a lot of different sounds in the same song, and he's a quite dark production, but then he manages to switch it up with like something very lighthearted and very like almost 1975 situation, like in terms of production. Very cool, very very cool. Especially Black Sugar is one of those songs. And we have also Darlin', which is probably the biggest song from the album, which is a very R&B happy piece, but it's just so freaking good. And I need you guys both to listen to both songs because they're just that good, just that good. Yeah, I mean, these are the songs, guys. I think you guys should go and listen to them, but I'm debating whether to talk about the song yet or not, but I haven't listened to it as much. I think I'll reserve it for next episode if I really think it's worth mentioning it. But that's it for now. And with that, we conclude the episode today. But I hope you guys have a great week ahead and see you in the next episode. Bye.